Let's do a couple proportion applications. Let's do this first one. It says a car is driving 60 mph. So mph stands for miles per hour. So let's write that. mph is miles per hour. And that per means divide. So 60 miles per hour literally means 60 miles are traveled in 1 hour. Right? And we don't often think of that when we're thinking about speeds. But if you're driving 60 miles per hour, that means that if you drove an hour, you'd drive 60 miles. That's literally what it means. So now we already see this is a fraction. So let's see what else it wants us to do with that. Set up and solve a proportion. So remember proportion, whenever we see that, that just means fraction equals another fraction. And then we solve by cross multiplying. Just reminding us what that means. And find out how long it will take the car to travel 132 miles. So, since I know it says proportion, that's fraction equals fraction, and we just need to make sure to match our units. So miles are on top here with miles per hour, so the 132 also needs to go on top. And then the bottom is what we don't know. And it says define your variable. What that means is to say, let x equal the hours, and I know it's hours because that's the units on the bottom, hours it takes to travel 132 miles. That's what we're looking for. All right, so that's what define variable means. It's just like let x, make sure we know it's in hours. And now we've set up our proportion and we're ready to cross multiply. So first side is 60 times x, so 60x. The other side, 1 times 132 is 132. And this is a pretty easy equation. So let's solve for x by dividing both sides by 60. We undo multiplication with division, and word problems, always okay to use a calculator. 132 divided by 60 equals 2.2. So x equals 2.2 hours. Not bad. Hopefully you agree. All right, let's try another one. Similar triangles are, a common application for proportions. So by similar shapes, we just mean that their proportions are the same, but their lengths, side lengths are different. So to be proportional, in this case, we know they're proportional because 2 of the angles match. So that's why they're labeled angles. But it says write and solve proportions for the similar triangle to find x and y. All right, so I'm gonna start with x. So what we know is the base. I'm gonna call this one the base. And the technical name for this diagonal is the hypotenuse. Ooh, let me spell that out. Hypotenuse. You can also just call it the diagonal. But that's how I'm gonna set up my proportion for x. Is the base over the hypotenuse equals base over hypotenuse. So we have 6 over 6.5 for base over hypotenuse. So we have to do the same side lengths on the other side. The base goes in the top and the hypotenuse goes in the bottom. So the base is 12, hypotenuse is x. Now you could have put the hypotenuse on the top, but you'd need to do that in both fractions. That's the important thing with proportions, is that you're matching the labels for the top and the labels for the bottom. So as long as they match across, you should be okay. Now that we have that set up, we're just gonna cross multiply. So I get 6x equals 6.5 times 12. That's It's a calculator problem. 6.5 times 12 equals 78. So 6x equals 78. Divide by 6, divide by 6. I don't know that off the top of my head. Divide by 6 equals 13. And in word problems, make sure you label units. So IN for inches. So this hypotenuse is 13 inches. Let's do the same thing for y. But in this case, we need to set up, instead of base and hypotenuse, we can even just call it short side and long side. Base and short side, I'm gonna call it that way. So instead of, they didn't give me enough room. All right, so in this triangle, I'm gonna do, these are called the legs. So this is the long leg and the short leg. So I'm gonna do long leg over short leg. So that'd be 6 over 2.5. So long leg, short leg. Or you can still call it the base, doesn't really matter. So we need to do the same order for the other fraction, where the base goes on the top and the short leg goes on the bottom. Now again, you could have put short legs on top and bases on the bottom, but you just need to make sure it matches the long leg, short leg, short leg. And then we're ready to cross multiply. So 6y equals 2.5 times 12. Get out the calculator. 2.5 times 12 equals 30. So 6y equals 30, divide by 6, divide by 6. That one I can do without a calculator. Y is 5 inches. So now in some of these proportional problems, you might be able to do it like, I don't know if anyone noticed that this triangle is twice as long as this other triangle. Did you see that? So the base, if this base is 6, that one's 12. That means everything's multiplied by 2. Like 2 times 6.5 is 13. 2 times 2.5 is 5. But we set it up like this because not every problem will be that easy to identify, right? That this one, you may have noticed it's double in length, but we want to have this tool of setting up proportions when they're not that obvious.